Good evening and welcome to the Toadstool Bookshop online. My name is Katrina and I am the events coordinator for the Toadstool in Keene, in Nashua, and Peterborough, New Hampshire. I am very thrilled this evening to announce Dr. Tim Cavanagh and his book, Journeying Well on Life's Rocky Trails. This evening, Tim is going to give us a few readings of his book, and from there, we will have time for discussion, for questions and answers, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Without any further ado, Tim, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Thank you, Katrina. And I'd first like to thank Katrina and Toadstool Bookstore for hosting this. That's very nice. I appreciate that. And I'd also like to thank everybody for tuning in and honoring me with allowing me into your home. So the book is a book about my life. It's a memoir. Basically, in 2016, there was a series of events starting when 2016 was about 2 hours old that really sent me into a very dark year of my life. And I knew that I needed to change. And this book is the chronicles of my change, and kind of starts from my earliest childhood through where I am today, sitting in front of you with a book. So, and part of what I wrote was poems. They seem to speak to me, so I'll start with a poem. It's called The Trailhead. I have readied for this journey the best that I can. I have prepared my provisions. I have made my plans. I awoke hours before dawn to set out on my quest. I have picked a mountain that will prove a good test. Over a curvy 2-lane valley road in the early morning light, I have traveled many miles. Now the trailhead comes in sight. At the base of the mountains, my boots have not yet trod. I know not what lies before me as the sun lights up the sod. Always a bit of apprehension is with me as I start, but soon excitement overrides it and joy fills my heart. I hope I am strong, that I am up to the task. I pray for a safe venture. That is all I really ask. I welcome the mountain's challenge full of life's unknowns. Into nature's beauty and bounty, that is where I like to roam. This is from chapter 2, Growing Up. I was born in Casper, Wyoming on August 25th, 1955, into a strict Irish Catholic family. I was the 7th of 8 children. The first 7 of us were born in as many years. The first 4 were boys, the next 2 were girls, then me and my little sister. The very first recollection I have is from when I was 3 years old. It was the day my parents brought my little sister Sharon home from the hospital. I stood on the couch looking out the picture window. My dad drove up in front of our house and helped Mom out of the car. She carried the new baby up the sidewalk. Mom was wearing a skirt, and the baby was so thickly swaddled in a blanket that I could not even see her. They came into the house and all of us gathered around her. I was so excited. As the second to last child, this was the first baby I had witnessed coming into the family. All the other kids accepted it as a normal event in life. But when I looked at my new baby sister, I could not comprehend how a real person could be so tiny. I thought she was precious. I wanted to hold her, but I was too little, so I just stared at her. It was that moment she arrived home and I took my first look at her that I declared myself her protector. To this day, Sharon and I still have a special and deep bond. We didn't travel together much as a family, though I do have vague recollections of family trips to a small cabin my dad built up in the Casper Mountains, as well as a few trips to Yellowstone. The first trip I recall clearly is when my family drove to Neola, Iowa in the summer of 1960. I was 4. We went to visit the family farm on which my dad was raised. The farm was like heaven to me. There were cows, pigs, chickens, dogs, and cats. There was a silo that had a small chute that poured out corn like magic. I would pull the handle on the door to the chute over and over again just to watch the kernels flow down. There were lawn snakes to catch by day and mesmerizing lightning bugs at night. One day during that vacation, we all went over to my cousin's much larger farm. There was a huge rooster with colorful feathers, a big red comb, and sharp fighting spurs on his legs. He chased me around between the barns. I was scared and ran from him. But then my oldest brother, Jim, rescued me and hoisted me up on his shoulders. I felt safe up there. The big rooster chasing us became a grand game as Jim darted in between the buildings with the rooster hot on his heels, flapping his wings and making angry clucking sounds. The kids were running in zigzag patterns to keep away from the rooster and laughing. I was sure life couldn't get any better than this. I loved being with my family. I felt secure with my brothers and sisters. Much of the nurturing I received growing up was from my two oldest brothers, Jim and Paul. We had certain family traditions that became the glue holding us together through thick and thin. These established the rhythm of life. No matter what other hardships we faced, we could always count on these specific ways of moving through the calendar year. On Sunday mornings, we attended Mass, never missing a Sunday or a holy day of obligation. After Mass, my dad would cook a breakfast, which consisted of 2 eggs over easy, 2 strips of bacon, 2 pieces of toast, potatoes, and a small glass of orange juice. There was a period of time when Sunday nights were special too. Mom and Dad would make 3 or 4 homemade thin crust pizzas on our rectangular cookie sheets, and we would all gather in the living room to watch The Wonderful World of Disney. Mom would make 2 large bowls of popcorn flavored with butter and salt. Being together as a family in these moments brought me so much comfort and happiness. My mom made 7 loaves of bread twice a week. Occasionally, she would also make cinnamon rolls. They were delicious. One of the highlights of the week was me having 2 pieces of fresh bread hot out of the oven. That bread seemed to make everything all right. Many of my favorite memories from childhood revolve around holidays and my birthday and other holidays. My birthday was the one day a year when I was the special child. I got to choose what we'd have for dinner. My mom made an angel food cake with powdered sugar frosting to be eaten with vanilla ice cream after the family sang happy birthday to me. I would receive 1 present from Mom and Dad and a second present from my siblings, who had all pooled their money for my gift. We never had other children over for a typical birthday party. It was always a family-only affair. Christmas was my favorite time of year. It wasn't only the presents I loved, it was the season itself. For us, the season started 4 weeks before Christmas with the placing of an Advent wreath on the center of our kitchen table. This wreath had 4 candles, 1 representing each week of the season. 3 of the candles were white, and the 4th was purple. Every night before dinner, my dad would read the Advent prayer for that day and light a candle. The second week, 2 candles would be lit, and so forth. By the 4th week, all 4 candles would be lit at the start of dinner and remain aflame until dinner time was over. When all the candles were lit, we knew we were ever closer to the big day. Sometime in the middle of Advent, we would go as a family up into the mountains to select and cut our own Christmas tree. When we got it home, we would begin putting up the modest decorations that characterized the season for us. We never had snow globes or the miniature light-up Christmas villages in our own house, but I had seen them in stores and other people's homes and thought they were absolutely magical. Christmas Eve was the start of the biggest part of our celebration. Our family would exchange gifts. The siblings drew 1 name, and that sister or brother would be the person to whom they'd give a present. Each child also gave a gift to Mom and Dad, and our parents would give each of us children a single gift. We would go to midnight mass. Then, early on Christmas morning, we would all sneak down to the Christmas tree. There would be 8 stockings, hand sewn by Mom, hung on the fireplace mantle, filled with a tangerine, new toothbrush, small tube of toothpaste, lifesavers, and a small toy. Then each of us received one big $15 present from Santa. So moving from my childhood into after graduation from veterinary college. And this is chapter 5, establishing a professional practice. The first professional position I held as a veterinarian was in Cottage Grove, Oregon, in a practice that provided health care to a myriad of animals. We treated pets, mostly dogs and cats, as well as farm animals, horses, cows, goats, and pigs. I had driven from Fort Collins in my 1965 Dodge pickup truck, pulling an old wooden-sided trailer that carried my blue Yamaha motorcycle, along with all my worldly possessions. I had $850 in cash to start out my new life as a veterinarian. The practice that I was joining had me working every weekday plus every other Saturday. 2 Sundays a month, I also worked at a small local livestock auction in nearby Cresswell. I felt so much a part of that scene, as it reminded me of all those days I had gone to the auction back home. I met the local farmers and ranchers as I walked up and down the alleyways, examining the animals' medical fitness. I would perform health exams, do pregnancy checks, and draw blood, sending home livestock with contagious conditions to ensure the health and integrity of the animals being sold at auction. People buying animals would ask me questions about the animals for sale, just as I had questioned the veterinarians at the livestock auction back in Fruita, Colorado, as a teenage entrepreneurial farmer. I so enjoyed my Sunday afternoons at the auction that it hardly seemed like work. Then I started my own practice in Arlington. And after years, then I went from Western medicine. And this then is as I move into Eastern medicine too. I became increasingly interested in acupuncture as a way to treat health conditions that did not respond well to Western medicine. These included certain neurologic problems, as well as many chronic problems such as arthritis. So in the fall of 1994, I took the acupuncture certification course through the International Veterinary Acupuncture Society. I attended the course in Clearwater, Florida. 2 weeks before I was to attend my first class, I was presented with Timshel, a 10-year-old golden retriever. He had severe back problems and had both of his rear legs were stuck in extensor rigidity, meaning that they were stiff and he could not bend them at all. I tried the various medicines available at that time, but nothing worked. His owners were considering euthanasia. I told them I was going to an acupuncture course and I would see if there was anything I would learn that might help Timshel. To say I was initially confused by Eastern medicine is an understatement. It is a totally different paradigm and approach to health and the treatment of disease. During the course in Florida, I talked to one of the instructors about my patient, Timshel, and she told me about some acupuncture points to use, and I purchased acupuncture needles. On my way home from work, my first day back after taking that initial week of training, I went out to my client's house to treat Timshel. By now, Timshel had been in extensor rigidity for 3 weeks. I put needles in the points my instructor had shown me and left him in for 15 minutes. After I removed the needles, I picked up Timshel to put him back on his bed. When I set him down, his legs were immediately relaxed and he could bend them normally. We were all shocked and happily amazed. I continued to come out and treat Timshel twice a week with acupuncture. By the second week, he could stand. By the fourth week, he was walking on his own. He continued to improve and went on to live 3 more years as a happy, mobile dog. He was a great patient to have as my first acupuncture case. He demonstrated to me the power of acupuncture. I finished my course, passed the qualifying written and practical tests, did the required case studies and internship, and became certified later that following year. I have continued to incorporate acupuncture into many of my cases to this day. I've been a vet in practice for 40 years. I currently have 2 other veterinarians working for me. I have clients who have been with me since I started my practice in Arlington in 1981. I now have the pleasure and honor of having their children and even their children's children as clients. My practice has become my extended family. During my career as a veterinarian, I have treated literally hundreds of thousands of animals, large and small. I have performed thousands of surgeries, including one on a bear and a bald eagle. The time I have spent as a veterinarian has taught me much more than just the medical and surgical aspect of treating our animal friends with whose care we are entrusted. I have learned about life, love, loss, and resiliency. Does anybody have any questions or any comments right now?
If you do have a question or something you want to talk about, please, there's a chat function right down the bottom, and you can use that to communicate. And I'm happy to call on you, or you can unmute yourself and chat. I just want to say it's really evident, even from your childhood, when you talk about playing with your brothers in the yard and with the neighbors and your roosters. And I think it's really evident the respect that you have for nature and small critters. It's really, truly beautiful.
Thank you.
And I think that big families, a lot of times, that's you get a respect for the little guy. You say that you were your sister's protector, and I think that shines through in your veterinary work.
Well, thank you. That's nice.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So I went on and got married and ended up with 6 children.
Wow.
And so this is from chapter 6, Building a Family Life. My kids enjoyed helping me on our farm. They learned at a young age how to drive the tractor, an old farm truck, so they could drive while the rest of us picked up the hay bales after I had mowed our largest pasture. They helped build fences as well as feed and work with the animals on the farm. Often, one of the younger children would fall asleep while I was working out on the farm, and I would find them nestled in the front seat of the old farm truck. I love spending time on the farm with my children. Life on our farm was not all work. We had a swimming pool where the children spent summer days swimming and diving. We usually ate on the patio around the pool, barbecuing most warm evenings. When the kids weren't swimming, they could be found on our playground. It included a large sandbox, a trampoline, and a 3-story play structure I had built. The tower had an enclosed room on the top level, 2 slides, a circular enclosed one, and another one that was undulating, 3 swings, and a climbing area. The children also loved to explore the natural areas on our farm, going down to the pond or up onto the woods. No matter where they went, there was always a caravan of dogs following. Our house had a very large playroom in the basement that contained a miniature kitchen built to scale. I recall many times sitting at the child-sized table on a tiny chair sipping tea with my girls. It had 10-foot high walls, so we set up a small basketball hoop, and the kids also used roller skates on the heated cement floor. I love taking my children to my vet clinic and having them see all the animals. I enjoyed having them watch me care for my patients. When I had weekend emergency calls, I would often take 1 or 2 of my children with me to the clinic or out to the farms where the emergency was taking place. They enjoyed being with me and being around all the animals. As they got older, they would help me at vaccination clinics, hand me equipment on farm calls, and do cleaning at the clinic. I remember when Cody was 2 and I put him on the counter as I was examining animals. I would turn around and find him eating pet tabs from the treat jar. My children would watch me do surgeries from the time they were 3 or 4. I remember Mariah coming into the clinic from the time she was a preschooler and pulling up a step stool next to my treatment table to watch me doing minor surgeries. My children remember watching me do surgery on a bear and later on a bald eagle. They love seeing the baby animals and helping with C-sections. It instilled in my children a love for animals that they carried with them to this day. Then as time progressed, after 19 years and 6 children, I went through a divorce in 1980 or 2001. And so this is from chapter 9, Life as a Single Father. Immediately after my divorce was finalized and I had purchased the home in which I would raise my children, I turned my energies to my new life as a single father. I had to figure out the logistics of getting my children to and from school, as well as their care after school until I was off work. I had to furnish each of their bedrooms and get some basic furniture for our home. I had to move everything I ended up with in the divorce off the farm. In addition to all this, I was working full-time. I could not afford to take time off work as the divorce had wiped me out financially. The most important job of my life has been raising my children. Now I'd be doing it as a single man. All my children had suffered to varying degrees during the divorce, but they had also endured hardship during our marriage, especially the last few years when our arguments were louder and more frequent. My children needed a home where they could heal and grow. I dedicated my energies to providing a lovable, stable, and structured place for them where they would once again feel safe. Bo lived with me full time and never visited Susie. That was her choice and I respected it. Noelle and Mariah spent 1 week with me and then 1 week with Susie. This schedule was equitable in terms of the amount of time my girls had with their mother, but it was difficult and unsettling for them to move back and forth so much. Susie and I ran our homes very differently, as I had set bedtimes and normal rules to guide us. Isaiah spent all his time with me, except every other weekend, when all 3 of the younger children went to Susie's. Cody was living in Bellingham in an apartment I rented for him while he finished school. I visited him on a regular basis and he came down often to spend time with his siblings. I stayed active in his school activities. Kelly was living in California with her uncle and aunt. Fortunately, I had a client and a good friend who ran a daycare where Isaiah could go after school. He could ride a bus to her neighborhood and she would walk over and pick him up. She was a very loving person and I knew my son was safe and well cared for with her. They understood my schedule and would feed him dinner and start his homework on the nights when I worked late. I would have one of my receptionists drive up to Noelle and Mariah's school to pick them up on the weeks that I cared for them. They would often come to the clinic and do their homework or play upstairs in my office or go home if their older sister was there. One Thursday evening, the week before Thanksgiving, Bo and I were watching television upstairs when the phone rang. It was Susie. I couldn't believe it. She and I had not spoken for months. We did not even speak or see each other after the arbitration the day our divorce was settled. She wanted some advice on her finances, as now she had to manage her own money. I talked to her for 10 minutes and tried to give her sound advice. Susie acted like nothing happened between us, and I certainly did not feel like talking about the divorce. When I hung up, Bo and I just looked at each other in shock. Neither of us knew what to say. Within 15 minutes, the phone rang again. This time it was my daughter Kelly calling from California. I was surprised that she was calling me, as we had been estranged for over a year. She had been the child most caught in the middle of the divorce. Our conversation was tentative at first, as neither of us knew what emotions the other was feeling. When she said she missed me, I wanted to cry. One of the hardest parts of the divorce had been the loss of my relationship with Kelly. And I told her I missed her too and that I loved her. I realized what courage it took for Kelly to call me. That call was the start of our healing as a father and daughter and for our family. Bo and I were both so happy that Kelly had called. That night, I felt the first glimmer of hope that my life as a single father would work out. The children were with me for Thanksgiving that first year, but I was in no way ready to prepare a Thanksgiving feast. Fortunately, some very close friends invited us over to their house to share our first Thanksgiving with them. They had known my children since they were young and are more like family than friends. It was a wonderful Thanksgiving meal, and we filled their home with our noisy, happy family. I truly felt I had much for which to be thankful. Early in December that year, I started preparing our house for the Christmas holidays. Arlington Hardware offers shoppers 20% off on the first Saturday of every month, so I went down to buy some decorations. I saw a display of miniature holiday houses that light up. As a child, I was always mesmerized by these little houses and villages I would see in shop windows and at friends' houses. I selected a church with a steeple, a toy store, and two houses along with a blanket of snow. They were the start of what my children have come to call my obsession. As I have continued to collect them throughout the years, moving into more intricate houses and setting up entire villages every Christmas, I now have over 50 houses. Secretly, I think my children love them as much as I do. As early in November every year, they ask me if I'm going to put all of my houses out for the holidays. Sometimes we would turn off the overhead lights and sit quietly listening to Christmas music in the glow of the lit villages. I also often did this alone after the house quieted down and the children were all in bed. So my children finally moved out and I became a single man with no children at home, and I met a woman. On December 30th, 2013, I had a few drinks with friends after work to celebrate the year's end. Having gotten her number from our mutual friend, I sent Jody a text saying hi and asked her how her holiday had been. She told me she had just returned from a trip to Hawaii with her children. We sent text messages back and forth a few times that evening, and then I asked her if she would like to get together. We agreed we would meet up after work at the Buzz Inn Steakhouse on the first Friday of the new year. We had a few drinks at the steakhouse and talked for several hours. We enjoyed conversing about our kids and work, and were surprised at how quickly we passed the time. We decided to meet again soon. Over the next few weeks, we got together several more times. Then we decided to go for a hike together on a late January Saturday. Jody drove over to my house that morning, and then we took my truck up to Deception Pass State Park. Jody had chosen the place. We parked on the south side of the bridge and took the trail down to the beach. Our first picture together as a couple were taken on that beach with the Deception Pass Bridge behind us. I put my arm around her shoulders and she lay her head on my shoulder. In the pictures, Jody looked as happy as I felt. We hiked back up the hill and walked out to the middle of the bridge. We looked west out onto the vast expanse of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. We held each other's gloved hands as we talked and admired the scene. When we returned home, I gave Jody a little goodbye kiss when she got into her vehicle. It had been a great day. I felt the excitement of beginning to court someone special. I felt optimistic about our relationship, and Jody often sent text messages upon returning home from our outings together, telling me how much she enjoyed our time together. We talked about our growing affection for each other. I was falling in love with Jody, and I told her that. Then a series of events occurred in early 2016 that really sent me into the darkest year of my life. And this is as I turned during that time to alcohol. So I'm going to go back to my college days, just move back when I lost my best friend Vern, and start there. It was when I was a senior in vet school in 1980. After a week with Connie Joe and Vern's family, I had to return to vet school. The grief I felt was immense. I had never before lost anyone I loved and to whom I was so close. I was absolutely and totally emotionally destroyed. I had to resume my studies, but it was extremely difficult to be present and focused with the enormity of grief I was experiencing. During the day, I did the best I could in clinics, but when I went home at night and I was alone, I turned to alcohol. It was the first time I had used booze as a tool to assuage my pain. I lost control. I remember one time when I regained consciousness in the middle of the road after wrecking my motorcycle. People were all around me, asking me if I was okay. I just got up and rode off. I couldn't drink enough to end the agony, so I drank more. I drank excessively and continually. I could barely function. I used what little energy I had to focus on my studies and try to succeed in graduate school. My drinking pattern up to that point had been one of abstinence and overindulgence. I could go weeks without drinking when my studies, sports activities, or work required total focus. But then I'd go on a bender. I would drink excessively on a weekend or for a whole week at a time. In retrospect, I realized that when I picked up the first drink, I was all in. I was fostering a life that alternated between exceedingly hard work and overachievement and a life of using alcohol to either celebrate or to cope. This became the pattern from age 13 to 60. So that's my early drinking years. And now this is after the trauma in January of 2016, or it's the last trauma in January 2016. I met two friends for dinner up in Mount Vernon. I was scheduled to pick up my oldest daughter, Bomi, at the airport later that evening. She was flying in to help me, wanting to support me in my crises. My intention was to avoid drinking while having dinner with my friends. I just wanted to visit with them. When I arrived, they each had a beer in front of them. At first, I told the waitress I did not want anything to drink. But after several minutes, I decided that one beer would not hurt me. I would just slowly drink it during dinner and I'd be fine. But that beer went down easily and was soon gone. It just seemed to vanish. I was sure one more would not affect me, and I would still be able to drive the 90 minutes to the airport. I ordered a second beer. It may have been the second beer or even the third one when the tides inside me changed. Whatever strengths I had previously possessed to control my drinking were overcome by the pain I felt inside. I fell headlong into depression. The only recourse I knew, the one I had always turned to during sad or difficult times, was to drink. So I did. I drank more and more until I totally forgot about picking up my daughter. That night, I totally forgot about my duties as a father. It's not that I did not love Bomi and want to see her. It was just that in that instant, my love and need for alcohol was stronger. Alcohol won out. My downward spiral continued in free fall fashion. I hoped to drink until the pain stopped, but I knew it wouldn't work. I drank until everything stopped. All reason, all consciousness, all feeling. I was in a drunken blackout stupor. So 2016 was a terrible year for me, and I survived it. And 2017 was a bit of a step up. But 2018, I started trying to get out of the abyss that I had fallen into. And chapter 19 is surviving, healing, and thriving. And this is in May of 2018, or August of 2018. Amidst the pressure of the civil suit, I had turned to the mountains, as I have always done, for solace. I chose Mount Rainier in my first big climb and selected a reputable guide company to get me there. I started training 3 months prior to the climb to get in shape, but no sooner had I settled into my exercise schedule when one of my veterinarians left. This increased my already full week workload to 25% and included working Saturdays. I had also started a clinic remodel. I was just too tired to get in all the training I needed. In early May, I drove to Ashford. We gathered in the morning for orientation. Our head guide was Eric, who would be teaching us mountaineering skills and ensuring our safety on the mountains, along with other guides, Jenny, Lydia, James, and Nick. I came to respect the mountain guides as world-class athletes. They climb mountains on a daily basis that most of us consider a once-in-a-lifetime endeavor. At night, they provide meals for the climbers. That day, they went through our equipment and we learned which knots and basic climbing techniques to use. The next morning, we were driven to Paradise, the small village at the base of Mount Rainier. We geared up and started the 4,600 80-foot climb up to Count Muir, which sits at an elevation slightly above 10,000 feet. We stayed in a small hut for the next 3 nights. I felt fatigued the last 1,000 feet, but made it with encouragement from James telling me I could do it. The first day on the mountain, we learned climbing skills such as setting anchors, ice axe arrest, and rappelling. The second day, we traversed the Cowlitz Glacier and climbed up to Ingram Flats at about 11,200 feet. I was a little tired, but not exhausted. We set anchors, and one at a time, we were lowered into a giant crevasse so our members could rescue us. When my turn came, I was lowered down 25 feet and dangled from the ropes for 15 minutes. It was unnerving at first. I could only see massive walls of ice surrounding me. 3 words kept running through my mind: beautiful, peaceful, terrifying. We climbed back to Camp Muir and received instructions from the guides for the next day's summit attempt, and then climbed into our sleeping bags to get a few hours of sleep. We arose at 1:30 in the morning to prepare for our ascent up the mountain. We had an hour to don our climbing gear: base layer of clothes, transponders in case of emergency, climbing harness complete with carabiners and cords, climbing helmet with headlamp attached, and a large pack containing water, food, and spare clothing. A quick cup of instant coffee and a freeze-dried meal of eggs and hash fueled me for the climb. We worked diligently and quietly, each lost in our own thoughts. Then we gathered outside our bunkhouse and were given last-minute instructions, clamped on our crampons onto our hard snow boots, and roped up. The air was cool and still. The darkness of the black sky was decorated by the night's display of bright stars. A perfect night to undertake the challenge of Mount Rainier at 14,410 feet. I was in the second group with our guide, James. We set off at a slow, steady pace over the frozen glacier snow, which crunched sharply under our hard boots and sparkled like diamonds when the crystals were illuminated by our headlamps. Rhythm, pace, balance, breath, all are essential for a successful climb, yet none of these seem to be in my skill set on this early morning. The first quarter of a mile was fine, but I was not walking smoothly and efficiently. By the next quarter mile, my breathing became labored and my muscles started to ache, especially my hips and thighs. It required conscious effort to make them continue to move. Once we were into the steep, loose, exposed rock fields, I was in a total struggle. The realization that the summit would not be my destination descended over me. My goal became making it to Ingram Flats, where we had hiked the day before for crevasse training. I arrived there again, exhausted. I knew that 11,200 feet would mark the highest point of my climb. I called it. No more for me. I could go no farther. I shuffled into the break, barely able to pick up my feet and place them even 6 inches in front of me. I desperately wanted to stop short of our break area, but James commanded me on. You can't stop here, Tim. You have to move on. Once there, I dropped my pack and pulled out my parka so I would not become chilled after perspiring from my exertion. I sat on my pack, having spent all my energy. My hopes of summiting were crushed. That was my first trip into the mountains, the big mountains, but not my last. And so here's a poem to end the reading from when I was up in Alaska and I was traversing the glaciers by Denali. So it's called Denali. I journey to these mountains to feel her healing touch. I invite her grandeur to me for the peace I yearn so much. I do not come to conquer her, just to scale her mighty peaks. For men that feel superior, it is a tragic end they meet. I come to see her beauty in her peaks that hold the sky, and in her snow-filled valleys, each bring awe to my eye. I listen to her talk to me in the stillness of the night, and in the roar of avalanches that remind me of her might. I am honored she invited me to spend time in her land. The longer the mountains cradle me, it is me I understand. I am a part of nature. I do not stand alone. I feel the peace inside of me in these mountains I call home. So that's it.
Tim, that was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Dr. Wilhoit says that she is impressed by stamina for all of the full life that you lead.
Thank you. Well, I certainly appreciate people being here and taking time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again, especially some of you that I recognize.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Absolutely, please do.
So I'm kind of familiar with this book, this amazing book, and I just can't help myself, and I'm sorry if I put you guys on the spot, but I'm pretty sure I recognize a couple of your daughters here on, and granddaughter, baby Lily,
Yes.
on this Zoom. And I just think that is amazing that you have had the courage, Tim, and the wherewithal and the love and connection with your family, that the 3 family members would show up, at least 3 that I can identify in these little boxes, or think I identify.
Yes.
Anyway, it's great to see you guys here, and Yeah, it's an amazing book and a really, really powerful story. And you just read the lightweight parts, right?
Yeah, I did.
Mostly.
I picked the Christmas version. Yes.
Right, right.
There's more in it. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Thank you, Jennifer. Hi, Roger. So,
If you had to distill into one or two sentences the biggest lesson that you've learned through going through all of the many things that you have in your life, what piece of advice do you have for those of us who are facing our own challenges, our struggles, our own adversities?
I think the main thing I learned is that we need each other and we need help from other people. And that's really what I learned. Up until this time, I was a fairly independent person and didn't turn to others for help, really for anything. And after my demise, so to speak, I realized that I couldn't make it on my own. I needed my family, my staff at the clinic, my clients, and also people in the professional world to help me on the road that I was traveling. And I think we all travel rocky trails. So I think we all need help. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I guess I'm unmuted. Can I jump in again?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
So Tim, can you say something about some of the hobbies that you have, including some things you might do with, wood and stuff like that?
Sure.
Because I think that just adds such a great layer to who you are.
Yeah. So that's a chapter I had to cut out because I was already at my time limit. But when I was a young child, probably in the 4th grade, I started carving leather. And then later on, probably in the 7th grade, I started in woodworking. I worked my way up to be the grand champion leathercraft carver in Colorado. When I was in high school, I am what I guess you'd say a skilled craftsman in wood. And I'm a cabinet maker, furniture maker, make pens, do just about everything. I have a rather large shop. There's not a lot I can't do in wood or leather or wiring. And so if I hadn't have become a veterinarian, I would have been probably an artist or a craftsman. That suits me quite well. So, as my children can attest. Yeah. Thank you.
Tim,
anybody else?
thank you again so much. And those photographs behind you, you told me earlier that those are photographs you took in your journeys in the mountains. Is
Correct.
that right?
Yes. So they're all photographs I took. I framed them. They're pretty simple frames, but I put them up. So they all represent places I've been. The middle one is Alaska. The one off to my right, which is here, would be on the same mountain that the cover's on, Mount Pew. And the other one is actually Glacier Peak that is written about in the book too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love photography when I'm up in the mountains. It's hard to capture nature's beauty, but I try my best.
I think you've done a great job. If those photos are anything to go off of, you have a good eye for it.
Thanks.
Definitely a creative type.
Thank you.
Tim?
Yes.
Thank you so much for reading, sharing all of those very personal experiences of yours. I was trying not to shake from crying, and I was trying to not sniff while you were reading some of those. Those are very heartfelt experiences. And a lot of the whole Christmas scene and many of the scenes that you shared, I could really resonated with me. I felt like, yeah, I get it. Yes, we had a similar situation in our family. So it was really comforting you're bringing the audience into your story by the way you've written it and the way you're sharing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a big decision to write a book, to head out on that journey, that part of the journey. I think there were certain reasons I wrote the book. I think if you read it, you'll understand why I wrote a more public kind of a public story that would go public. I'm not sure that if it hadn't happened the way it unfolded, I would have ever thought my life was interesting enough to write a book about. But it's was hard to write. It was part of the journey, but it was a very healing part to go through the experiences I had, good and bad, and try and find the balance in my life where I'm really on the best path I've ever been on right now. I won't say all my trails, I still have the rocky trail. All my trails aren't smooth, but they're good. Yeah. Thank you. And thanks. That's very nice, Melissa. Thanks so much.
It's the truth. I don't say nice stuff. I just say what is the truth.
Well, I appreciate that even more then.
Yeah.
Roger says, bravo. When will your series be on Netflix?
Well, I haven't decided who to play me yet. That's the big holdup. Thank you, Roger. Good to see you. Yeah.
I already ordered the book. I'm waiting for it
wonderful.
to come. It's on my calendar when the delivery should be December 1st.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. I do have a blog too.
I saw it.
Oh, good.
Oh, you did?
Uh-huh. While I was waiting for the Zoom session to start, I
Excellent.
went to the blog. Yeah.
Well, if you like it, you can tell your friends about it, and
What's the URL?
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
Journey.
And get it from. Pardon?
The name of your blog. What's your URL so people can find you?
Oh.
I think it might be journey with ing, journeyingwell.blogspot.com.
Yeah.
That is probably it.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, it'd be great if you link that up.
Yeah.
Katrina.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We'll link to it on our website when we post this video recording.
Good, great.
And maybe you could put it in the chat box for us right now.
Oh yes.
I'll try and do that.
Okay.
Oops, I can't really hardly see, but
That's all
pretty
right.
dark here.
Boom. There you are.
Oh,
ladies.
you're such a faster typer.
Oh, wow.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Bonus of the digital age,
Yeah.
Tim,
Right.
thank you so much for sharing your book with us and sharing your story with us and your time this evening.
It was my pleasure.
Folks, if you haven't read this book yet, please. We're carrying it at all three of our Toadstool locations in Peterborough, Keene, and Nashua, and online at toadbooks.com. So if you don't want to leave the house, we'll mail it to you. I'm happy to package that up so you can read it for yourself.
Great.
Gift it to somebody that you love, might be inspired. It's going to be a great gift.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing yourself, your story, your family with all of us. And thanks, daughters, for being here.
Yes,
Adds to the story.
it does. I'm proud of both of them.
And Lily, sorry, I'm just so
My
excited
little
I get to see her
granddaughter.
up close.
Yeah.
I just want to hold her.
Yeah. She is
Sweetie.
squeezable.
Yeah, she looks like it.
Mhm.
Folks, thank you again for coming out tonight. We have really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed hosting this event, and I'm very excited to hand sell this book this season.
Great. Thanks, Katrina. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay.
Have a great evening, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Tim.
Thanks,
That was
Tim.
fantastic.
Thanks,
Great
Roger.
job.
Good seeing you.
Good job,
Good
Dad.
to see you. You take care. Keep in touch. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you, Jennifer. Bye, Bo. See you, Kelly.